G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe, share it around with your mates and give us a rating. That would be great. We're almost up to 20 5-star ratings on Spotify and I reckon that's pretty cool. So thank you to everybody who has rated so far. And of course, now you can join the show's Instagram page. So that is the Dysregulated.podcast. I'll repeat that again because there's some great content coming. The Dysregulated.podcast. Now, today's episode, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm not in my usual jovial mood. And that is because this week, we hit our limits. We've hit our limit. I've hit our limit before, and I'll explain why hitting the limit this week actually ended a little bit better than one might have expected. But hitting the limit, we definitely have. And really, it has all to do with my new job being a behavioural therapist, the real sink or swim situation that I find myself in. Now, the good news is, we haven't sunk to the bottom, definitely not, but we are flailing around to stay on track, that's for sure. Lots of splashing, lots of flailing limbs, just trying to get the job done, which is proving reasonably difficult, which should be expected at this early stage. But of course, I do not deal well with difficulties because that to me spells stress. And stress is not my friend. Just to put in perspective how bad it is right now, just then I took a 5-minute break from this recording and vomited everything up into the sink. That is how stressed and how under the pump that we are at the moment. I just vomited everything up. And the thing is, I'm not even drinking alcohol. There's not even a justification for it. It's just me being so under the pump at the moment. Although that's not to say that I haven't tried to improve my mood with different substances, which could also be contributing to the need to vomit them back up. So today I've had my dosage of sertraline, the antidepressant, SSRI. What else have we had? We've had Vyvanse, dexamphetamine, stimulant medication. We've had some lorazepam, which is a benzodiazepine, which is supposed to calm you down and make you feel good. No, I don't have a prescription for that, but I do have a source to get some. And the result was really that the lorazepam hasn't done the job anyway, so I may as well bin that because it has failed miserably. Lots of pre-workout and caffeine to try and get this machine moving. Some propranolol, the beta blocker, to try and keep the blood pressure down and everything under control. But unfortunately, as my vomiting escapades just previously have shown, none of those interventions have worked, which is annoying. What's also annoying is this morning is usually the man walk here in Newcastle, starts at 9 a.m. I fell asleep yesterday at about 7:30, didn't wake up till 11:30 today, missed all my alarms. So if that doesn't quite set out the sort of trauma that we're putting ourselves under at the moment, nothing will. Things are tough, we're not eating, we're barely drinking, we are just a frozen, anxious mess. Now, like I've said before, just earlier on this show, on the episode, that this has happened before, and when this has happened before, I have been forced or felt compelled to leave the position or the task or the project that I'd been working on. So a good example of this, quite a few years ago in my early 20s, I worked for a transport company here in Newcastle. I moved to their head office in Tamworth, had a great time Then I went down to Sydney as a sales rep, so selling freight rates to companies. Now, that was a very, very difficult time of my life for a few reasons. One was, usually when you're in the workshop and you see some bloke with a button-up shirt coming in with his briefcase, people look at that and think, what does this bludger want? So I used to walk in there all bright-eyed and positive and thinking I could really help this business achieve their goals through the use of our service, which I must say was particularly good. But time after time after time again, I would get knocked back. And it wasn't even because of what I was trying to sell. It was the fact that I was there to sell anything in the first place. Even though I knew that my freight rates and the service on offer would do great things for their business. And that used to really grind me down, that every day I would wake up and have to go see people who really, really didn't want to see me. Needless to say, that was not part of my meaning and purpose to try and make this world a better place. It felt like I was the one that was making things harder for other people. And then, of course, when I used to go back to the office, my boss, who was an out-and-out sales manager. Now, with people who are really good at sales, usually they're quite, arrogant, stuck up, think the wind blows out from them, whatever. This bloke thought he was the king and that I was a threat, and as a result, he treated me that way as well. And I remember the stress that I'm under at the moment was exactly the same as the stress back then. The issue is, though, that the stress I'm feeling now is something to do with my meaning and purpose, and that is why we press on, because I'm sure in 6 months' time, when I look back and think, geez, what was I so worried about trying to get these reports in and make these therapeutic relationships possible with all my different clients? We always had it within ourselves, Elliot. You just need to have a bit of self-confidence. And that's right, self-confidence. I have none. And unfortunately, the drugs don't help either. Obviously, because today has not been a particularly good day either. Although I wouldn't say today's been any worse than the last couple. So that is a bit of insight into what it's like when I've hit my limit. Because when it comes to doing things, a friend of mine messaged me before and said, oh, we should catch up. We should go for a run. Do you want to come to the gym? I do not have the capacity to even entertain those thoughts, which is really troubling because I know doing those things would be good for me, but I do not have that, as I said, capacity to even look beyond the right now. So as it stands at the moment, I'm actually very much living in the now, being very mindful, but I'm being forced to do that by my predicament because it feels like, whether rightly or wrong, that every moment could be the last. There could be a misstep just in front of us, and we need to be acutely aware of what's going on in front, or else we could make a mistake that could be disastrous. Now, again, if we were to use CBT, I would try and challenge those logics and find out that a lot of those thoughts are definitely illogical. But I tell you what, they are as real as anything I can feel right now, as is evidenced by the fact that even physically I was just chucking me guts up because this is playing on my mind so much. But I do want to also say this. I tell you what, we are in the fight, and we're not just getting bloodied and bruised in the corner, although that is true. There is that peace of mind saying, we just need to find that opportunity, slip the hook, and then it's game on again. We're just getting pummeled right now in the corner, and a lot of it's coming from ourselves, which is so annoying. But we're just waiting for that moment when we get that bit more confidence and we can really launch again. And that definitely is the plan. So don't be too concerned. Unfortunately, this sort of thing happens with every new undertaking that I take on. I give it everything I've got, but sometimes because I give it everything I've got, the opposite happens as well, and there's some negative effects too. But in the long run, I'm very confident that this will be life defining, and I'm so glad that I've got you guys, the listeners, here to be able to experience this moment, because when in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, 10 years' time, when I'm a fully fledged clinical psychologist, I can look back to this episode and say, you know what, that was bloody hard, but I'll tell you what, didn't we fight hard to get out of it? And look at us go now. So my week has been hell. Every day has just been so stressful. And even, again, I've said this on the show before, but if you haven't heard this, I'll say it again. Often when I'm really stressed, my dreams reflect it as well. So sleep isn't an escape. Unfortunately, sleep is not an escape, and it has been very fleeting lately as well. And there's no two ways about it. Being stressed, having no sleep, not eating well, not drinking well, that is bad news for depression. That is bad news for anxiety. That is bad news for bipolar disorder. That is bad news for ADHD, for borderline personality disorder, substance abuse disorder. That is bad news for all of them. And that is what I'm contending with at the moment. But I will say it again. One thing about me that I just cannot fault, even though I've tried, is that I am resilient. I just, in the face of adversity, I just don't give in. And this is another example of me just not giving in. We just need to find the efficiencies at work. We just need to find some self-confidence again. And then hopefully that'll flow on to every other aspect of my life, which may be lacking in a bit of self-confidence at the moment. And very soon, I am sure, and I'm not just saying this, I am confident if we can ride out this storm, and it is one hell of a storm, but if we can get through this, then the rewards will all be there, and you guys will be able to share in on the rewards as well. All right, so there you go. A little bit of a quick one just to check in. Things are really tough at the moment, guys. I'm not going to lie, but we are punching. We're in the corner, but we're just looking and seeing when we can slip that jab, and then all of a sudden we will be back on the ascendancy, and then watch our world. All right, thank you for listening to today's show. A little bit negative, but as genuine and as real as this podcast is, it is certainly. So if you are enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe, share it around with your mates, and give us a rate. That'd be great. Get us to 25-star ratings on Spotify. That would be awesome for the algorithms. And please follow the new Dysregulated.podcast Instagram page. I'll say it again. The Dysregulated.podcast on Instagram. Thank you for listening. Until next time, see you later. Goodbye.